Ever feel like everything's getting more expensive? Groceries, rent, even breathing. And let's not forget car insurance. It just keeps creeping up. But here's the thing. Insurify makes one part of life easier. It's an insurance comparison site that finds real-time quotes from dozens of top insurers. Insurance companies compete for your business, driving down prices. It's like having a friend who knows all the best deals, but without the smug grin. You could save as much as $1,025 a year, and you might even cut your bill in half. The best part, it's all online. No phone calls, no spam, no nonsense. You can be covered in as little as 10 minutes, and with an excellent star rating on Trustpilot, saving feels less impossible. So why not give it a shot? Visit Insurify.com and see how much you can save. That's INSURIFY.com. Average potential savings based on initial quotes received by 183,234 customers seeking insurance through Insurify. Actual savings may vary depending on state of residence, individual circumstances, coverage selections, and insurance provider. Savings results are not guaranteed. It's the season to shop new styles, electronics, and definitely a holiday trip. And what if each time you made a purchase, you got a little something back? With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on just about anything you buy from over 750 stores. So if you're looking to buy a new phone, clothes, skincare, or a getaway, well, you can get cash back. So treat yourself, family, and friends and book that holiday trip now. Start getting cash back today by joining Rakuten. It's free and easy to use, and you can get cash back deposited into your PayPal account or sent to you as a check. It's the smartest way to shop, plain and simple. Start your shopping at Rakuten.ca or get the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.ca. As you've probably heard by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code The Athletic. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first bet on any game and claim your voucher for a 1-year subscription to The Athletic. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager.
Side by side they go!
Welcome to the 2015 MotoGP season and a little teaser in the main The Race MotoGP podcast feed of something we're going to have a lot of fun with in the Race Members Club on Patreon this year. Now, inspired by our retro F1 podcast Bring Back V10s and its F197 Revisited Members Club spin-off, we asked the Race's members to vote on whether we relived the entire 2006 or 2015 MotoGP season in a series of mini-pods during 2025. The members picked 2015, so myself, Matt Beer, Simon Patterson, Val Khorounzhiy and Megan White are turning the clock back 10 years and diving into that epic and just a little bit hugely controversial Valentino Rossi versus Marc Marquez versus Jorge Lorenzo season. It's not all about those three either. 2015 was the year Ducati, with a leg up from Dorna, started its journey back from embarrassment to domination. The year Suzuki arrived and Aprilia sort of arrived. The debut season for Maverick Vinales and for Jack Miller too. There is so much to it. And apparently something happened at Sepang that year as well. Episode 1, the Qatar Grand Prix, is available in full now on Patreon and features us four explaining where we were in our lives and our MotoGP fandom/journalism back then, as well as the contentious backdrop to how Ducati was suddenly competitive again going into that season. But here's the race section of that episode, available as a little free taster for you all of what it's all about, with Andrea Dovizioso having put Ducati on pole ahead of the Hondas of Dani Pedrosa and Marc Marquez. Despite Ducati looking good in winter testing as soon as that new bike hit the road, and despite the pole, everyone was still expecting Marc Marquez to be favourite for a third straight World Championship. He'd won the title as a rookie in 2013, and then in 2014 he'd won the first 10 races straight and just absolutely blown everyone else away. He'd been a little bit sketchier after that, but to be honest, he could afford to, so there were more shunts, a little bit of a points lead dwindle, but the title was long gone. So the assumption was he would pretty much pick up where he'd left off and that Ducati's pace wouldn't be sustainable. And obviously Yamaha, being way back on the grid for Losail, suggested it was looking really good for Marquez. But his race went wrong immediately. Val, do you want to take us through Marquez's night at Losail?
Yeah, so just at the start, going into the first corner, he checks up behind, I believe, Bradley Smith, and just doesn't make turn one, ends up last, and at that point, his whole race is conditioned from there. His race from that point is okay. I mean, just watching the broadcast cut back to him during the opening lap, you can already see that he's doing the usual Marc thing of not really treating those guys as rivals, but as just, obstacles to remove in one way or the other. They are not riders he's here to fight against. They're riders he's here to quickly move past in whatever way necessary. And that quickly move past included, there was a bit of contact with Alvaro Bautista that I think disconnected Bautista's left brake caliper. And if you look at it on the replay, it's pretty, I describe it as penalizable, certainly, what happens there. And Bautista certainly was not happy at all. Not the first or last time somebody's unhappy with Marc's conduct in the pack in terms of fighting his way through. But yeah, obviously the win was off the table immediately when he went back to effectively last at turn one. And from there on, given that this isn't Marc's favorite track, it wasn't exactly an ominous race necessarily. It was what you'd expect. Again, Marc, Qatar, even at the start of his 10-win streak in 2014, he only barely won Qatar. It's this still, you can still get this kind of result from Marc at Qatar and then have him dominate the championship, as has happened at certain times in the future, but spoilers, not this season.
Did anyone else jump into this and be like, wow, stewarding has really changed? Because there was so many things that would be just instant penalty now all the way through this, that it was like, ooh, that's a penalty. Ooh, that's a penalty. No, we're in 2025. That wasn't a penalty in 2015.
Yeah, certainly Marquez's first lap is basically tackled as if those other bikes don't exist. And it's glorious to watch, but it's, yeah, I don't know if it would work now. Also, a lot more winglet.
Less glorious to be a part of.
A lot more winglets would have gone flying as well. And at this point, this new Ducati is the only bike on the grid with any hint of a wing. Although, spoilers again, some more do pop up as the season goes on.
There was another guy who kind of went to last place on the opening lap. Can you guess who it was?
Marco Melandri, because he spent the whole year in last.
You know what? That is a good guess. However, the answer is Maverick Viñales. Oh. We're going to get to him later. I just thought that's funny to bring up.
I didn't even spot that he Viñales his start to the.
Well, I didn't quite see what happened to him, so it might be totally innocuous, but it might not be.
Might not be.
Also, Jack Miller.
Did he? All right.
Who has a very good mullet for this race.
Oh, it was superb, wasn't it? Hanging out the back of a helmet. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? So there's the lovely thing about this season is there's so many other things to get into with Viñales. This is Viñales' rookie season, wasn't it, on the Suzuki?
Yes, yeah, it was his first MotoGP race, yeah.
Jack Miller's been chucked straight to MotoGP from Moto3, somewhat contentiously as Crutchlow's LCR Honda teammate. Basically my plan, and this is to you guys as well as the listeners, is I've got a kind of list of things we must tick off through the season that I'm kind of waiting till they appear near the front or the absolute opposite. So, for instance, I've got a lot to say about Marco Melandri's season, but I'm keeping that just in my pocket for now. Marquez gets to the field really quickly, but then he kind of hits a wall, really. Gets up to fifth past teammate Pedrosa, who has a very underwhelming race that he then reveals afterwards is due to severe arm pump. More on that in our next episode about Austin. Well, at the front, it quickly becomes Yamaha versus Ducati. Even though Rossi fell to 10th at the start, he and Lorenzo make rapid progress through to join Dovi and Iannone battling at the front. It is a superb race between the four of them. The theme, and this is not an unfamiliar one to MotoGP viewers of the last 20-odd years, is Ducati has a great run out of the final corner. Ducati has a top speed advantage, but for the first time in quite a few years, this Ducati can also turn corners. The understeer that has been holding it back for a long time is gone with Gigi's new design. So although it's still not a match for this lovely nimble Yamaha, remember when Yamahas were nimble, around the whole lap, it's close enough on that front that Dovi is looking very good for this race win. Lorenzo is the main Yamaha protagonist at first, but he disappears out of the lead battle for the very odd reason that the foam inside his helmet is falling down and covering his eyes. So as he reverses down to a semi-blind 4th place, it's Dovi versus Iannone versus Rossi for the win. Lots and lots of overtaking all around the circuit, lots of side-by-side action, but it looks like whatever Rossi is going to try, Dovi's speed advantage down that big long straight out of that final corner is still going to make him the winner in the end. But Rossi plays his final lap very, very well and has enough of an advantage that he manages to pip Dovi by 0.174 seconds to deny Ducati what would have been its first win in 5 years. So a mega start to the year for Rossi, who a lot of people were thinking might be back in title-winning form in 2015. He had had a horrible 2 years with Ducati at its worst in 2011 and 2012, found his feet again back at Yamaha in 2013, but it was 2014 where he actually outperformed Lorenzo, got back to second in the championship. Lorenzo just seemed knackered in 2014 after nearly beating Marquez to the title despite a load of injuries in 2013. 2014 was more Rossi's year at Yamaha, and he was starting 2015 with a win. So, Megan, what did you make of this Rossi versus Ducati battle at the end, and what it boded for the rest of the season?
It was so good. Why do we not have this now? Bring this back now. I obviously had heard that the 2015 racing was really good, but this was just what a start to the season. Assorted notes I've taken. More credit to Dovi. We do not talk enough about Andrea Dovizioso, and I would like to put give him some credit because he was great in this race. He was great, he was great later on, which we'll talk about another time. But I thought Dovi was great. I mean, the first MotoGP race I attended in person was the race where he announced his retirement. So I've never really seen that much of kind of peak Dovi, and he was really, really great. Obviously, bearing in mind the kind of Ducati situation we discussed earlier. That battle as well for the lead. I mean, there's so much to and fro. It was such a tight fight, and you just don't get that now. Everyone seemed a lot closer together. There was a lot more overtaking. It was action from start to finish rather than a really good first 2 laps or a really good last 2 laps. The whole race just had so much going on. It was great. Although there was a moment later on where there was quite a tasty battle at the front, but TV direction was showing a battle for 8th, which left me somewhat perplexed.
Usually the other way around.
That hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't.
No. It is kind of the platonic ideal of a Qatar race, and one of the reasons we don't get that now, aside from the problems with the formula, is even though bikes do have strengths and weaknesses, they're more uniform. So you don't get that classic Qatar race that you sometimes see, also like World Superbikes, right? Where one bike is obviously so much better in the straights, and one of the bikes is so much better in the corners, and you have the one long main straight, and then, that being made up over the rest of the lap. That usually, I think, makes for the best Qatar races. I do want to ask Megan something, though. You didn't know who wins this race, right? Coming into it. Who did you think would win it with 5 laps to go?
I thought Dovi was going to win, and I was ready to be well done, Andrea Dovizioso, you go girl. And then that happened, which, I mean, fair enough to Rossi. That was proper. That was great. Again, I started watching MotoGP in the last year that Valentino Rossi raced in MotoGP. So I've seen bits and pieces from throughout the years of his greatness, but I had not seen start to finish a whole race where he won. So that was also, it was great. But going back to Marquez as well, that 5th place finish, considering he was last, was pretty decent, to come up and finish behind Jorge Lorenzo, who was partially sighted at that point. Admittedly, it was brilliant. It was a really, really good start to the rewatch. Actually, if it had been a really boring race, it would have been, oh god, here we go. But no, it was great.
But the reason I ask is because watching it, and I didn't quite definitively know who wins, but I had a pretty good idea. And watching it, I felt like I never had any doubt as to the outcome, and I'm trying to understand how much of that is colored by my knowledge of when Ducati actually wins again, and how much of it was genuinely the way the race was playing out. Because at every point of the way, it felt like one of those classic Valentino Rossi rides that we didn't really get very much of in the latter half of his career, in the part that I covered professionally. where he just runs at the pace he needs to run for as long as he does, and then at one point in the race he decides, okay, I win now. So that was fun. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed mingling with you guys. This has been okay. Now I win. It looked that way, honestly, from the moment he broke away towards the leading pack, and everybody else just going back towards him with every lap, and him, every overtake that he did really looked like he wasn't exerting himself. Only on the final lap, where Dovi was still somehow hanging with him, that it suddenly he looked a bit ragged. The rest of that race, it just, exactly stage managed completely. For me, Dovi's done a really good job to take it to the final lap, and on the final lap he did put Rossi under a bit of pressure, but it looked like a classic Rossi dominance, super managed, and it looked like he could have won by more.
It's kind of another one of those things that foreshadowed the future, because it's Dovi tire management.
Yes.
It's like it's showing what's going to come. It was the first sign of hint that, this guy with this bike, that might actually be something. That might evolve into something. And obviously within 2 seasons he was fighting for a championship on it.
See, I thought watching this that maybe Dovi was going to be like in the title fight, he did. I thought he was doing such a great job that maybe like this season's going to be like loads of Dovi wins, all the rest of it. I was very optimistic for Dovi, but it was really interesting, actually. As I said, having not seen a lot of these riders at that time racing. Obviously, Marc's going to mark, last year, this year, next year, whatever. But like Lorenzo, Dovi, Valentino, it was it was very interesting.
But you don't know, this is the Dovi title season. He wins it this year. That's why we're doing 2015.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I noticed was just Danny Pedrosa. Again, Danny Pedrosa deserves more. Give Danny Pedrosa more. Give him some titles. That man.
Oh dear, poor Danny.
Poor Danny.
Yeah, poor Danny Pedrosa's plight is what we will open the next episode with when we record Austin 2015. So quick rundown of how things ended in Qatar. So Rossi won for Yamaha ahead of Andrea Dovizioso. Iannone starts his factory Ducati career with a podium in third. Lorenzo, despite not being able to see where he was going, half a second behind Iannone in fourth. And then Marquez and Pedrosa, Cal Crutchlow best of the rest on the LCR Honda. Yoni Hernandez, after a really perky start, in which was in the podium battle on the Pramac Ducati, falls to 10th. We'll be back with you next week, going on to Kota, which is a place Marc Marquez has done pretty well in 2013 and 2014. Unbeaten there so far. So if you enjoyed that and want to know what happens next with Pedrosa's arm, Ducati's resurgence, Marquez's fight back and Rossi and Lorenzo's title bids, then episode 2 covering the Grand Prix of the Americas is out via the Race Members Club on Patreon on Wednesday, January 29th. And we spend a surprising amount of that one talking about Casey Stoner.
The Athletic.
Hello, I'm Ian McIntosh and I'm the host of the Daily Football Briefing. What is the Daily Football Briefing? It's a special 10-minute daily show designed to bring you up to speed with the most important stories from across the football world. Except on Monday mornings when it's 15 minutes and we try to cram in the results, standings and stories from the top 10 leagues on the planet. Or at least the top 10 leagues that I run on a Football Manager save. Follow this show today and you'll never miss another big story again, whether it's news that the Athletic has just broken. David Ornstein, what happened? News from outside the Premier League that other podcasts might ignore.
That is a difficult one to explain, so let's go bit by bit.
Or it's Champions League week and you just need someone to put it all into context.
It's made for a very useful away point in a difficult game in a difficult week.
Listen to the Daily Football Briefing in 2025. It's out every weekday wherever you get your podcasts.